first item, and before we jump into the budget, we're going to look at a couple items, and one is the lifeguard salary increase. Sydney wasn't feeling well last week, but Mitch and I met and went over this, and what you see in handwriting there are the increases. Most are, you know, $1, some are a bit more than that, some are 75 cents. I reviewed it all with Sydney and she felt good with it all. If there are no questions or comments,
I just have one question. Between the two caretakers, one is raised and the other isn't. Just curious.
partly because one still gets a $1,200, shall I say, stipend for scheduling lifeguards. Without a doubt, historically, 3 Mile, and 3 Mile is our biggest revenue generator, and it's our busier part. And historically, 3 Mile was always our highest paid caretaker as a result. But Ferry Spring has had the individual who schedules the lifeguard, so they get that little bonus there.
Thanks.
Then I would move that the lifeguard, caretaker, boat stewards, and seasonal laborers have the hourly wage increase as indicated in your packet. Is there a second by Joe?
Question. They're all raised except Ferry Spring caretaker. Is that correct? Or is that a typo?
The Ferry Spring caretaker, if you remember, we gave $1,000.
I'm just asking. Okay.
Yes, that is correct. But a year ago at this time, they were at 68.
Okay.
So we have, in a sense, they're getting an increase. In another way, they're also getting an increase because we are adding a seasonal position, a seasonal park position. And that is basically a supplemental caretaker. And when they come on, each park caretaker will be asked which one day a week, it could be a Monday, it could be a Sunday, it could be any day, would they like off? So they're essentially working less hours, but they're getting their same wage. And so there's also that is being taken into account. Well, if there are any other questions? Motion made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Grievance night, I think we have a quorum. We were kind of panicking, we didn't. Sydney, you're gonna be able to be there. Rich, I know you can't. Richard, Cindy, Bach, Joe, and yeah, we got our quorum, so we are good.
So I had texted Cindy about splitting. I don't know if you talked about it. Or
He sent me a text and I said, if you recall, we had this issue and you know, Jenna, as our clerk, can confirm this. The board that is convened has to serve as a body. You can't be here for 2 hours and leave and then have someone else walk in and have them hear different grievances.
Okay.
It's a body that has to sit before us. So that's fine. We've easily gone on it.
Okay, apologies.
Not
I
at
don't
all.
want to schedule appointments at Bassett.
No, I didn't know Joe was.
You know what?
Also, that is part.
Sunflowers.
Yeah, just bring a book if you need to. Book on tape. And the last order of business before we get to our budget is, I need a motion to approve my appointment of Stephen Clancy to first alternate on ZBA.
So moved.
Moved by Richard, second by Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. We still are in need of alternate on each part and alternate on ZBA. So if you know anyone with the least interest, I would encourage them to, I'd love to chat with them and encourage them to attend the meeting and see what it's about. So
Well, let's cast a wider net than that. Let's just get anybody, not just somebody who's interested in it, but anybody who feels they need to do some civic service.
yeah, well, trust me, I've been trying to collar for ZBA for I think a year now, and it scares people away. So I think you do have to tell them what they're getting into. All right. So now we all have received our budget. I know, Joe, you said you had a couple questions.
Yeah, these are just kind of framing questions on the schedule number 3, which was the estimated fund surplus. Are these estimates now accounting for our investment opportunity to get interest on our balances?
No, that is not included in that.
This is just what is there and
What is, but my point is, if we engage in that program, we're going to be between now and the end of the fiscal year, we would be earning interest that might, would it be worth having that reflected in our
It
expectation?
would, on the surplus sheets here where it shows the estimated remaining revenues, it would be included in those figures and then the calculations as we go through these.
Right, but they don't.
saying this one,
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
surplus sheets.
yeah.
It says remaining revenues, they would be in there.
But we haven't done that exercise yet.
No.
And I'm just suggesting as we go forward planning, should we?
You will see that we did take care, we did include some in here,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. It's a little hard because we don't know, you know. Not having done it yet, but we, yeah. Mhm. All right. Historically, the way we've done our budgets is that, we work through them together and, kind of go line by line. You have a nice pie chart on page 3 that really sort of lets you see appropriations and revenues. On page, it's a numbered page 2, but it's a page there. That's the one we kind of zero in on, because again, we tend to look the most at what is the general fund, which is we call the A fund. Because the others are separate funds, if you want to think of it that way. We pay separate sewer and water bills. So, and they always kind of do very well and have money left over to put in reserves, etc. The A fund is always run a little tighter, but you can see the various categories there, funding capital reserves, appropriations, total appropriations, 4,584,416. And then it goes on revenue, other. So basically, whatever that is on top, matching in the next boxes, and the way we frequently are matching is the use of surplus, that appropriate cash, use surplus. We tend to like to keep that around 500,000 or so. So right now we're a little bit over, and we haven't even gone through to see if we're adding more expenditures or whatever. So, but that is a figure we try and keep a little more in balance. I believe we 4.2 this. What were we this year? Just so you can see what we were previously. We were 4.363 is our general fund budget. So ideally, we'd like to maybe bring this down a bit. Estimated tax base, estimated tax levy. This is the amount that we filled in for 10 years because we have not increased the tax levy. And that amounts to $5 and about 21 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. So,
There's a question then. So on this, again, back to the schedules that were distributed on page 2, the A fund, we're showing 282,898 anticipated year-end deficit. Am I reading that correctly? This was the second page of these surplus sheets.
on the A fund,
On the A fund, at the bottom right, there's minus 282,898.
It's showing a loss at the moment.
yeah, it's showing a loss at the moment. So right now, if you look up above, you're seeing 3,302,368 is our revenue year to date. Correct me if I misstate anything.
Over here, implied full year to 3,302,000 is what we're estimating the revenue to be, because the remaining revenues in the middle column there have not come in yet.
Yeah.
That's what we're anticipating for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
We're anticipating 845 in expenditures, in addition, making it the 3585.
So,
We spent more than we took in.
right, so when we budgeted, I'm just trying to go back to last year so I can think about this year. We came up with a budget number last year that we felt would meet our expected expenditures. We added in the 200, we added in money.
You're kind of looking at fund balance here, don't forget. So what we've done is we're sort of hitting more of a fund balance. Last year, we didn't, I had our last year's figures.
600 something
Yeah,
for fund balance.
yeah.
A negative or the comparable number for this? 282?
No, we're talking about the use of the clericals on the summary.
We actually, this was last year. And it was a positive number.
Right, but that wasn't the actual usage.
No, but these are kind of figures to work from. It doesn't, until we know the remaining revenues, until the remaining expenditures, it's a little bit of a guide, but don't perseverate on it,
Okay.
that's all I'll say.
It's an estimate. Things can go up or down between now and May 31st.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Let's begin, and I'll tell you now, we're gonna work for an hour and a half, and at 6:30, wherever we are, we're stopping, so. We aren't in for a long slog here.
Quick question, I won't perseverate on it. 50% of our revenue is other revenues. What is that? Was that kind of state grant and such?
Where are you looking now?
I'm looking at the pie chart.
The A fund has all your permits, anything that comes from the parks,
Ah,
anything from state CHIPS money.
okay, it's everything.
Yeah, anything that's not property taxes.
All right.
Yeah, because if you look back on that one page, you can see what our tax revenue
Right.
is and how, and all our other revenues, so you see that it's a smaller amount.
These two pages
Yeah,
here.
okay,
All right,
first two pages.
looking down,
I'm sorry.
so now I'm on page 3, and we're gonna be going through basically our revenues of our general fund, our aid fund, right off the bat. A lot of these kind of are set, don't change. We're looking down, the first one that I saw that I was wondering could be increased in our budget was 1130-000 utilities gross receipts tax under non-property. It looks like in the past, last year we adopted 55, we had actuals in 21-22 of 64,000. We had 54,000. So wondering, couldn't that be 55?
We could, but I will say that there are a lot of companies that have gone out of business and are not operating in New York State anymore, so things are going on a downhill trend, but we may be able to hit 55.
All right, I put it in there, and so I've made that 55,000, so that's an increase in revenue of 5,000. Going down to departmental income, do you have any comments or questions on any of those? The first one that sort of strikes me is the 1721 parking lots and garage fees. Second to the last line there. We're pretty close. That is the total 392, but you have to remember we won't get anything really this year, but we adopted 425, so we're 25 under. Is there a feeling that we almost hit 400 this year? Is there a feeling we could possibly increase that?
Yes,
In the past, if you look at our actuals, when we had pre-pandemic, let's just say, we were 444, 438. Obviously, then the pandemic hit, but I think we are on the upward slope there. I was leaning toward 430.
even with the undistinguished.
Don't forget, what did we just do? We increased we increased the rate too. And I sort of based my calculation on that.
Okay,
All right, 430, so that's an increase of 30,000. Going on down. Any comments, questions?
did we also amend our charging fee, EV charging fee?
I'm sorry,
Did we amend our EV charging fee, increase it to affect anticipated revenues?
that hopefully. That's different. The EV charging fee is 40 cents per kilowatt. We increased that just last year, I think.
Yeah, we just increased it, but I think based on Cindy's calculation, I think it's kind of gonna just like cover our costs.
That would cover everything.
Right, so we're trying to overcome the deficits, but so that. This 40 cents is what we have currently in place, and we're gonna stick with that. Okay.
Yeah, we
We're
were
raising-
like 20
Yeah.
before.
North of 20 to 40.
Yeah, so we doubled it. We're getting clarification on our Doubleday field because I don't want to get into the weeds on it, but you'll see 2 Doubleday field lines. One says cash A and about 3 under it, it says cash B. That's because right now we'll be taking in revenue for reservations, but they're after June 1. So they have to fall in our next fiscal year. And we particularly learned this lesson during the pandemic when we refunded funds and we didn't want it to hit the wrong budget. So we're just going to clarify that as of 124 figure that you see under cash A, 96,630 is pretty much for, where is it falling? We just want to make sure that it was pretty clean there.
Okay, cash A is 80,000 of this.
Yes, and it could potentially go up, but we just want to clarify which was for this fiscal year and which of that amount might have come in for the after June 1st. Moving down, boat wash recreation. You can see that we, as of 124, and this would have all occurred this last summer for June, July, and August, pretty much 3,778. So I did increase this to 3,600, an increase of 600. I thought would be more appropriate. Mitch, you oversee that department. Would you concur?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's 600 there. Beach fees. We had an as of figure 11,367. You have thoughts? I felt that could at least go to 11 if we wanted to be conservative. That was a very good year. If you look back, it's been a while since we've gotten up too high. Of course, parks were closed in our outlier year there. Is everyone comfortable with 11,000? All right, that's an increase of 5. So we've gained 36,100 on that page in revenue. If there's nothing else, we can flip to page 4.
We did that 46 on that page.
I'm sorry, what did we gain?
Yeah, 46.
I had 36,100. No,
The top line there, I thought we added $5,000 to utilities, gross receipts.
we did.
And then there's 30,000 for parking. That's
Yeah.
35. And these are not thousands. These are, yeah, got it.
There's 36,100. On page 4. This is where, Joe, we felt we should begin to try and reflect, and it's a little difficult to know. And again, this is our first draft budget. We certainly have into April to refine it, and we might know a little more then. But under interest earnings, that's a specific to the A fund. We feel we'd probably add another class there, so 2401-00, say 1 or something. And that would be the ninth class kind of
Gotcha.
interest. And we proposed 25,000. Because it's a little difficult not having done it to anticipate just how long. Obviously, if we took reserves and left them there for all 12 months, it'd be one interest fee. But also we don't know kind of how the interest would fluctuate. And also the funds can't sit there for a full year, because even if we put tax, predominantly what we put in there is probably June income that is tax revenue that we don't need entirely in the month of June, that we would disperse over, utilize for expenditures over the course of the year.
And
So
the
we
fire
felt-
department reserve there, the fire equipment, because that's a fairly.
That's right, and the fire equipment, etc. So we feel that we're being a little conservative, but we did put 25,000 there.
On which total, which of the total?
You really, it's not there yet, because 2401-000 interest earnings is really our A fund and
Of
then,
the entire is what you're saying.
yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, but it's Bank at Cooperstown, so to reflect what would be ninth class, we put probably a subclass or another class underneath that.
A new account code.
A new account, and it would be 25,000.
Got it.
All right, so that's 25. I didn't really have anything else until we got down to parking permits, which is under licenses and permits. Did anyone else in looking that over?
Yeah, hi.
This
All right, 10 minutes.
department request, in 21-22, our actual was $26,070.
Sorry.
And our adopted budget, we were a little conservative, we said 20. I think we probably could raise that. I think it could be 25,000 in the 23-24 budget. Your thoughts on that? No? Okay, so that's an increase of 5. And I didn't really have anything else on the rest of this page. Anyone else? That's all right. Not that's 30 for that page.
Under sale, or just to pause you for a second, under sale of property, that would be our surfacing of vehicles and equipment.
Sales of equipment or sales of real property? Sales of equipment?
Sales of, it's the 2650 line. So we are not anticipating any major. Where it says sale of property. Yeah, so under that, all that category, this is where we would put surplus vehicle sales.
It potentially is, but we have some equipment that probably could be sold, but it's sort of hard to know this in advance. If you look last year's adopted budget, we tend to put 0. And at this point, we probably don't have that much more to sell. We have generated 25,000, but it's a little hard to anticipate. I will say the sweeper, with the old sweeper, would probably be sold, but it's not clear what we would generate with that, and if it will occur by May.
Okay.
It may be in the next, yeah, and so if it occurs in May, it's gonna be in this budget, so I don't know.
Got it.
Helen, Cindy texted me and thinks that the garage P1 should be higher because of the increased hourly rate on street too.
Okay, so we're going back to the one we increased by 30,000.
Yeah,
she
thinks 70.
wants to go to
470.
set 470. This one,
Because of the increase on the paid park on street parking.
Yeah, well, that's what we were sort of
Right.
taking in. She thinks 70.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Where are we? So, were we good to move on from page? We cover everything?
On page 4.
Yeah, on 4, I think we're moving on to page 5. And I think we've all seen the, increased prices of sales. I think the mortgage tax, the second line. Looking back at our actuals. I think we could go conservatively, at least another 5,000 on that, 45,000 from 40. And that would be a 5,000 increase. Let's see. We're quickly trying to see how much revenue we feel we just added to our revenue lines. I've got 111,100, which is good, all to the good.
Can you help me understand 3089, the other general government state aid for proposing, or we?
The state aid,
485, 147 compared with.
Mitch, you want to explain that?
which one, the paved new, are you talking 30?
It's the
3089-000?
yes,
Okay,
That's a whole breakdown of the STR and all that.
yeah, so these are New York State aid, just as it says, paid New York. These are pretty much known figures. They've already told us what we will get. So under the paid New York, we're getting the amount you see there, 24,599. Under extreme weather, we're getting the 20,000. The big one is STR, which is state touring route, and we have state touring routes, and that's the one that has been the most generous, shall I say? And the nice thing about it is that it will cover not just streets, but
Streets, buildings.
buildings. And if you recall, our bid for the salt barn was salt storage shed was more than we thought it was going to be. And so this will help cover any shortfall we would have had there. The last one is, it's a cute name, paving our potholes, and we received 16,000.
so these are known numbers, that's,
They're known.
okay, that just reassured, okay.
So those are the revenues. Let's turn over to appropriations, expenditures. And I didn't have anything that popped out at me, but does anybody have anything on page 6? Obviously Cindy does.
No, she's asking about street work.
All right, well, let's move on to page 7. The credit card fees, we currently pay, I believe it's 25 cents per transaction. We also pay credit card fees for the months when the machines are turned off. And then, of course, there's a percentage of the charge, but that goes to Passport. They get some of that, so I don't have a clear feeling on that. I feel 20 is probably accurate. All right, if nobody has anything on page 7. Page 8. Mitch, the only thing I was wondering on page 8 is under buildings, about halfway down, office building. Last year, I know when we were trying to wrangle the budget together, I made a note that the 5,000 to remove snow from the roof, we never utilized. Do we just kind of leave that in there to?
Yeah, in case we ever have to. It's what's there. I've never used it since I've been in this position, but I know that it's been done in the past.
Mhm. Yeah. Could it be taken from, another area or,
It could if we ever needed to, we could
yeah.
worry about it when we got there.
Which line is it?
We're right down here. I'm just looking at the items under office building. The very last one is remove snow from
Yeah.
roof 5,000. And I only asked because we had a note last year. I had a note that it's never been used, and we actually pulled it last year. So
Oh, we did get pulled out.
it did get pulled last year.
Yeah, we can pull it again.
All right, so we reduced our expenditures by 5,000. Anything else on there? All right, then you have moved to page 9.
The line 312401. The expenditures to date are $808. Do we expect to?
What is the title? What's the,
It's police, schools, conferences, and dues.
okay,
I'm just trying to compare these actuals with the numbers here, that we've got hundreds of dollars versus thousands of dollars in terms of the adopted budget this year. And then again, 7,000 for this coming year, but we've only, of the 7,500, if I'm understanding this correctly, we've only spent $808. Is that correct reading?
yeah. I was wondering if we could get a little clarification, beginning with equipment. As of now, and I understand they may be buying more, but we've spent 3,754. We've got a fixed camera amount in there, but I'm not sure what the equipment draws are, what that might be covering, or what's the new uniform.
It says equipment draws for unit 201 and 202, so it's equipment for the vehicle.
Right.
I'm not sure what in particular.
Yeah. We have a brand new vehicle, 202 though, that it's been pretty well outfitted. I just was wondering.
So is these items that we're just discussing, are they subsumed in the $25,000 that's proposed? So this is all under 200, 331, 2200?
Yes, that's
Correct.
correct.
The equipment is being budgeted. The department request is 25,000. I was wondering, so this must be 20,000 of this other. Does this mean like new standard equipment? I read that and I thought uniforms, that has another, but it's saying new standard equipment? Or new uniform equipment? Perhaps we could just get some clarification. Could we get some clarification on the police budget? That would be great, Sydney.
And that would go too for the fixed camera system. Is that the one we're discussing, or our existing fixed camera system?
No, that is, I think, cameras in the, and I'm not 100% sure. I thought it was.
I assumed it was the one you wanted to put out front, or out on the pole.
On the building,
I think that's what he was talking about.
yeah, which is
So
on our,
we have an existing camera system, right? In the hallway.
Yes,
So what I'm trying to.
I think that's what it is.
I don't know if it's adding to that, or I don't know what this is.
Yeah,
Well, let's clarify that.
thank you, Sydney.
So with that said, that was the line above. Now the 401 line is what started prompting my interest. And that's the $7,000 item, when on a $7,500 budget this year, we've expended $800. So does it need to be 7,000? I'm just understanding the justification for that.
Yeah. So I think we're asking our police committee to sort of investigate, greater clarification on the equipment, maybe some prices, and are we talking about what we think we're talking about with the camera system? And the schools conferences and dues line, we'll get greater clarification on.
Yeah, I just want to say something about the schools conferences and dues. I do think that there's maybe a little too much allocated to that, but I do think we should keep it so that the option is there to make sure that the officers have the ability to.
Sure.
But I don't know if it needs to be 7,000, because it's never gone past, I mean, the 1 year, the 2020, the 2021 was 1450.
Yeah.
And that's not even close to 7,000.
Right.
So I'm wondering if it might be something that goes more to 3,500 or even 5,000 at the most.
Yeah, or I'd say 3,000. See if potentially 3,000, because it's never even been half of 3,000. That would be.
Yeah, but remember too, that these prior years, some of these you're looking at is COVID years where there weren't trainings. So.
Actually, the 1 year that was the highest was a COVID year. It was 20.
Which makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah,
So continuing to 410. I recall last year we were able to get some discounted training ammunition. But I'm looking, or in this fiscal year, but I'm looking at the 10,000 this year, 10,000 proposed, and 3,000 expenditures. So we're doubling that 3,000 or 2,800.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about that one simply because at least the figures are actuals in 21, 22 approach 10,000, as did 2021. So I'm more comfortable with that one. I would think it may just be when they have to do this, when they expend it. I know there were issues with getting ammo for a while, and it may, when they do get it, it could be a $6,000 or $7,000 purchase, which would have brought it up to closer to our budgeting.
Ammo is very expensive.
And it's expensive. It's hard to get, so.
Yes, I agree. There's a house full of hunters and everything else. Yeah.
What about lease vehicle expenses? We do have our new 202, granted 201 is aging.
Yeah, I think that's 19.
19, yeah. But we put in 11,750. Do you have a sense of that, Mitch, as far as repairs on vehicles? Vehicle maintenance repairs,
That's not including the gasoline, correct? They did that separate.
that's correct.
It seems a little aggressive, but no. I don't really know exactly what they get repaired all the time. They kind of take care of that themselves.
Yeah,
I do know that there's been a lot, before we got the new
yeah.
vehicle, there was a lot of issues.
With the-
consistently with the app. And it was just being repaired all the time.
It was, but our as of is still less than $6,000. I would see if that one could be lowered at least to 12,000. We're all set. Mitch, I wanted to ask about traffic control. Is the 3310-420 under traffic control dash electric, that's our specifically our stoplight, or
No, that's,
what was that?
I don't know, because this used to be signs and all of that. And then last year, everything got moved around.
To streets?
Yeah. And then I'm not quite sure what all of this is.
Well, that was one of my questions. So our stoplight is under streets traffic control or whatever.
I'm not sure because there's
So
some.
we still have a nice,
Yeah,
it's
so
30,
nice.
that's
There's
30.
a nice thing out for many of them.
Obviously, as of, we have 982. Do you, Deb, is that electric for the stoplight? Or for what? The stoplight?
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. Okay, so that is the stoplight. All right.
any other ones, Jenna, that you know of under the 30?
I don't think so.
And
No, it's not.
see, I'm wondering. Obviously. We did adopt, they kind of took what we did, but they haven't expended materials and supplies. I'm a little confused.
As far as my understanding is, and I'm not sure. The handhelds that the police use to ticket. Has paper and things like that, that comes out of this budget. That's my understanding. Is that correct, Mitch?
I think so. I don't know. Once they took all the signs and stuff.
I think that's-
had nothing to do with them.
Yeah, I think it's theoretically it should come from on-street parking. We'll clarify that. And would we be able to look back and see historically in our 21-22 budget? What that equipment was, 2550, or do
Yeah, I
you
can
think
pull up the expenditure codes and look to see who we paid.
that's what I mean? Yeah. And it may have been, that's when we were kind of commingling paid parking. Which we wanted to keep a little bit separate so we could know how much our expenditures actually were to.
That was moved to 56 code.
Yeah, I know we moved some, but I was just wanting to make sure. So Deb, you'll check that. That'd be great, what those were. All right. And we're checking those. All right, usually. We don't touch our fire department and or EMS later. I'm perfectly comfortable with those budgets unless someone has a question or wants a clarification on anything. No? So I actually don't have much on page 10. I did do a calculation, and just so you feel comfortable with fire and ambulance. On page 3, our fire protection service, you have the amounts we bill, Mount Seco. And I will point out that essentially what we bill for service to those areas that is not mutual aid, we're covering almost 47% of our EMS budget. And we're covering about 31% of our fire, so I think that's going to be. So now we're on page. Everyone's good with that? I didn't have anything on. Oh, this is where I thought Cindy and you might have any thoughts on street, because that's more your purview. Was there, everyone's good with all those?
Page 11.
We're getting 2 new trucks this year, the Chevy for streets and a F-350 used by parks.
Yes, that's, you cycle Chris's truck to go to parks, and then he would get his new truck. We've been doing that, it's like a 3-year thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
And the other guy would be replacing one of our 10-year-old little dump trucks.
yeah.
Let me ask a question just up above on line 200. We have no figures for street administration.
You're wondering about 5010-200 street administration equipment?
Well, yes, total, yeah. So we have that, we have 0.
Administration is usually computers and that kind of equipment. It's not street vehicles or anything like that.
Right, and so there's nothing.
Nothing that budgeted.
I've never done anything with that one.
Okay.
It's good if you don't have any money in.
What's the numbers for fire?
Then,
I don't think. What is the?
The numbers that were.
Can you remind me the grinder?
This to
It writes up all of the brush we pick up the year, yeah, it used to be
Proposal.
about a third of that, but this has gone up, skyrocketed.
And we do it?
No, we hire that out.
That's what I mean, that's a
Yeah.
service, I think it's a pile pretty big, we do it, you're trying to do it annually.
Yeah, right. And then you just have to find some push over bank or something.
Yeah, all right. And did Cindy have a question on streetlights or something? Did you say, or I thought you said, oh, it was a question on streetlights, I'm sorry.
Nope.
Yes. I really wish we had permanent paint on our rain gardens. At 11,000 every year to paint,
But it's that or the light bulbs when we do one every other year.
Yeah.
You know,
I know.
they take a beating.
All right, I have no real questions on 11. Or changes. Well.
Under 440, 5112, 440, we are way under what we can get for this SPR and the chips and all of that. So if we don't spend it, we don't get it. So I don't know how you want to, if we want to add more to that line.
How much are we on, and these are guesstimates, right? You try to figure out.
No, these are actual prices from the contractor.
Oh, they are,
Yes.
Railroad, Lake and Leatherstocking?
Yes,
All right, was there another on the list?
I would stick, because you're in that part of town, I would stick with Maple and Grove. The other end of Grove behind Stewart's. And Cindy also suggested adding a match for the connecting Cooperstown. We should know by the end of the month if we're gonna get that.
And where would that line go if it's a grant to? It'd be a study to talk about you're talking about the reconnecting
Yeah,
communities.
yeah. We put it under 470, I think.
And the amount I think was like 30,000 or.
She suggested 60.
That's an expense to pay out to someone to do this stuff.
We had to cover 60, but she was writing it, the grant for
I don't remember.
30 or something. Okay, is there a figure for Maple Oak Road?
I don't have them, I'd have to get that.
All right, so we'll get that.
Yep.
It's just getting. And we're adding. Reconnecting communities.
So maybe next question, this 60,000 that we would spend on this study for this. Would that grant be something that comes in that fiscal year, so as revenue? That would be. Because this is appropriations,
And
so,
She said the grant's 300,000.
and would that be in this fiscal year then, that? we would
I don't,
take some
I
credit?
don't know.
we'd have to pay the 300 or what type is it reimbursable as you go along? Because
I'm not sure.
all right, this is just budget. We know, I put a circle there. We're gonna gather more data on that. We'll just work forward when we know more about that.
So I shouldn't plug in the 60, or I should plug in the 60 for the study.
We'll put a 60 there as a placeholder, but I think we may need,
What line is this?
512.
Reimbursable, she says.
All right, 512477.
and I would be reimbursed the full amount, 300 or no? There is a match, and I think what we're trying to figure out is the match and the.
It says Cooperstown match of 60,000 if we get it.
And how much is the railroad? Railroad is kicking in 5, so is it 55 for us and 5 for the railroad?
I don't know what road.
Okay. I think let's just put some placeholders there now, and obviously, we're meeting in like, isn't it next week? Yeah, we'll get more data. We can make those decisions next week. We'll
Okay.
have that info. I'm not gonna worry about it. The only thing, and I don't want to jump in a peculiar place, but yes, we will get, so will all that be covered and we'd be in good shape with like our STR or state touring route money? Or
For what?
adding Maple Grove? I know you don't know the figures yet.
I still think we'd be under.
You still think would be on it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Okay. All right, anything else here?
Yeah, on page 12, the garage equipment, 5132 200. Are we going to be replacing a lift? Is there a surplus value for what we have?
No, they don't have one. They're looking to get one. Yeah.
What's the thinking?
Not laying on the ground.
All right, anything else? All right, moving on to page 13. Why is, I think we're low on our parking, which is basically like paid parking lines.
Yeah, I think the EV charger was more than that, the cloud.
As of, 124, we spent 23,000 already and we're only budgeting 18,700.
Yeah, so we're already, what, 2,300, no, 1,000, well, we're
About 5,000.
yeah, we're closer to 5, not quite 4.
And we haven't finished the year yet, with them
Yeah.
opening things again and.
This is good, though. This is why it was a little confusing before when our paid parking expenditures were in different areas. It was hard to see. I think we're getting a closer grip on, this software, the opening and closing, the repairs, etc. So I think this probably should be higher.
I agree.
I think it should probably, I think, this is the cost of our paid parking revenue, if you want to look at it that way. I think we probably need to be up around
26.
25 or 26.
Cindy says it is low as the machines age, there's more repairs.
Correct.
Yeah,
Which is a new machine cost?
did you ask a question?
How much does a new machine cost?
Boy,
I want to say they're around 10.
I'd say they're at least 10.
Each one's 10,000, okay.
Yeah,
Is there any sort of timeliness factor in their obligation to make a repair, so that if we're down, we lose revenues? In our maintenance agreement, are they understood to be promptly fixing things that break down?
they are, but they still become problematic. And like, for instance, one of our machines was hit by a car and we did not know about it. It would known or had a camera, we would have seen the vehicle that did it. But that was a couple of years ago, and that machine has always caused problems. And in fact, when we were adding one, we did add,
We moved it.
we
swapped
moved it to a less used spot because it was always problematic. It had a great failure rate, even though it was being repaired, it was just intrinsically damaged.
I'm not questioning that. I'm saying, how quickly do they get to in other words, if they don't get to repair, the machine breaks down, we lose revenues for a week because that machine is down, because they haven't come in.
We don't
repaired.
necessarily lose, people get frustrated, but they walk to the next machine.
Okay, got it.
We don't lose the revenue. All right, so my recommendation would probably be, it's so funny, the pandemic year there, we had a lot of paid parking there, and it seems like expenses, yeah, more than normal. All right, so how about 20, let's go 25.5, how's everyone feel about that? So we've now increased that, quickly do that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Cindy says they're pretty quick to respond effectively, usually a day or so.
It was around wine skill, right?
I don't know where they're
ATI,
at. Yeah.
yeah, they're on wine skill. So that's too far, a couple hours.
So it's up 68.
6,800, we just increased that expenditure by 6,800. Anything else? You know what the miscellaneous under parks maintenance is? 71, 10, 410 parks maintenance, materials and supplies.
with the miscellaneouses,
Hmm.
just little everyday things.
You know, historically, we've never gone, the highest we've had is almost 78. Do you think we could at least put that at, I don't know, 8,000?
Yeah, we could.
Which line are you?
The third line down in parks maintenance materials and supplies. Mm-hmm.
71.
I'm sorry.
I'm still trying to find the line that we're.
Oh, I'm sorry, right here. The third.
Oh. Yeah.
And the highest again was like in 2021, 7,798.
Mhm.
So we've never even hit 8,000. I would consider dropping that 1,250.
So to 8,000.
Yeah.
So it's 8,000 on full time instead of 7,000.
Everything else, we're good.
In the, I know this topic came up last year, the 5,000 for the buffer strip maintenance, are we talked about doing that, but not always doing it. I'm just asking where we are with that.
We did pay out, cover their plant material, like $5,000 for the plant material.
And I think moving forward, the maintenance of the buffer strip is slowly shifting away from the garden club. So it's either we pay for the maintenance or we consider it an alternative, which has not been successful at thus far.
Doing it ourselves.
And the alternative that we had thought of was trying to find, multiple organizations.
Right.
Sort of like volunteers, and I think it was successful for like one day, but it's a whole season, so it's.
We actually did put that down in not, the plant material was what we covered this year. But down is further down, park maintenance, contract, professional and technical, we have the buffer strip maintenance at 5,000. And Mitch, we talked about, we're doing this idea of a seasonal parks person. Who's covering obviously each park for one day a week. Would that be a focus too, or just overall? Because it's parks, not.
It could be, it's just gonna be, he's a seasonal, it's gonna be a seasonal laborer, so I don't know exactly how much plant knowledge they're gonna have.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the other issue. Well, I guess the plant knowledge really is what's a weed, what's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I could have done it.
And hopefully with the revisions they've made, they've greatly reduced the maintenance.
Did we talked about potentially using that 5,000 to employ, which I think is what they have done in the past, where they've used,
Well, that's why it's in a personnel line, really.
Yeah.
Contract, we're hiring someone.
They hired, I think they used Boss.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They use Boston as the and
They did a little bit every so often.
Mhm. Well, it's in the budget, we can see how that works. The only thing I was wondering, and I can't remember if we put it, I think we put it in parks, because it was paid for out of parks. We're gonna have to treat the hemlock wall.
I've got it in here.
Yeah.
Oh, we-
it's
under
7.14.
We're 60.
Oh, you put it under 460.
Yeah, this Fairy Spring, it's just for Fairy Spring.
Well, that's our only, thank goodness. All right. All right. Anything else? What is our 3 mile dock?
We budgeted, I think, 50,000 last year for a roll-in aluminum dock. And when the time came, we didn't have enough. The price had gone up, so this is to cover the shortfall we had, so we would have to put what we budgeted this year into Parks Reserve. And then add it to this 20 when we actually go to do it.
I thought it was not just that the price went up, I thought that there was concern that the aluminum dock wasn't as substantial, shall I say?
Yeah, I thought there was an issue with its, for our purpose, which is a public swimming place, that they weren't sturdy enough.
I don't know, I have let Chris deal with this one, I haven't had too much to deal with it. But I don't know about the sturdiness of it.
And then there's still a question of pull in, pull out, what are the relative costs of the capital costs plus its operation and maintenance versus continuing with the wooden.
Hopefully the operation and maintenance, and I think that's what they're looking at, would be a lot easier, because right now we build the docks in place, and that is, and in fact, we didn't even get one in by Memorial this year.
Yeah, we didn't get Ferry Springs in the right time,
Yeah, Ferry Spring wasn't in, it's just.
it can take a couple weeks just to do one dock.
So it is, there's a lot of factors there, and I recognize that, and it would be great to have one that wheels in. I do know, like Lou Allstat has one of those. Maybe we should invest, we can leave it in there.
Okay.
But I think we need to investigate that, because quite frankly, I had one of those aluminum docks and it doesn't go out half as far as 3 Mile would or should.
Okay.
And it is so rickety, I can't imagine 10 people standing on it.
Okay, I'll have to get more information.
Can I ask you, what was my question? Yes, what about leaving wood docks in with bubble systems? Doesn't work on the open water there.
I don't know if we would get the power out there, because we'd have to run a lead cord that far. I think you get a voltage drop where that won't work.
Well, that's, I mean, just a
Wooden dock I've always wondered about, because if you ever go up there to walk out on the ice platforms and you want to go ice fishing, you really want to go off the point, because if you go south, that stream's coming in.
Yeah,
And that's pretty much where our swim dock is, so I wonder if there would be a
but I
way.
know if the wind blows that way, all that ice from the lake is gonna come right into there and it'll take the dock right out, even if
I
they're.
could see that with a boat dock,
Oh, boat dock, we leave in, we have, ever since we got
and
electricity.
you haven't had any issues with that.
Nope.
That is so funny, so you've
Okay.
seen the ice blow north?
Yeah,
Hmm.
because Lou Hager, he leaves his docks in with bubblers too over there.
Hmm.
well,
I'd hate to try it and have everything washed right up on shore.
Yeah,
right. Well, I guess the only part is if it's a wooden dock and you rebuild it every year. Is it an experiment to? You'd save all the costs if you succeed, but bubblers seem to be a lot more cost effective.
I can look into it.
yeah.
Yep.
If anything, because we bubble our floating docks. And historically, that south end where we are is the one that always gets hit. I mean, it's why it's an icebreaker. Okay, yeah, let's just gather a little more
Yep.
information on the metal dock and the idea of bowling. $14.
So I take it under the summer recreation and personal service, that 69,000 reflects our salary increases.
It will have to be adjusted, it will be adjusted for next week's, but
Oh, okay, so, okay.
because we just. Any comments, questions?
What does it mean on 7115 in the middle of the page, park summer redux?
Are you asking about it?
Yeah, I'm asking what.
7:15.
What is redux?
Wait,
I don't know, so it's-
Oh, yeah, no, I was recreation.
Because we've got dock maintenance just above it, that's.
I don't know if it was a typo that just got left in there over the years, but it's always.
Yeah, that's what I.
Okay. Good
I
answer.
think it's an abbreviation of recreational docks.
Yeah, I think it was
On the
rec.
line.
See, if you look above, you got rec dash propane. I think it
Right,
just
but-
was a typo.
But since we have all those docks and dock maintenance up above 711, I was just,
You know, actually, I think I learned it as one point as anything that wasn't docks. Because if you look, it's 3 Mile House painting, miscellaneous repairs, I thought it was,
So it should just be summer rec repairs.
yeah, and I think docks was what got in there wrong. Anything else? Excuse me? I flipped that, 'cause I was reading.
are we gonna change 14?
If you have that time working,
I do just at the bottom of the page, some of the equipment, and, we've got a requested budget of $1,100. And I don't compare that with what we've already spent this year, I don't. It's not much more.
There was other bigger equipment purchases this year, you know, they budgeted for a new vent track and higher, bigger pieces of equipment.
It seems like right under the line of miscellaneous schools,
It's the point of view.
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
And the Ben track is very. Anything else? Ready to move on to 16?
I had some.
Okay.
As for the band concerts,
Mhm.
we did spend a little bit over what was budgeted for, and it's anticipated that we might spend a little bit more because, band's fees have been going up. And I know that it's 40, so it did increase, like,
So I think that's why 48 is
Right.
budgeted. You don't think, because we spent 4,650, so it is increased by 150.
propose that it is increased to, hold on, I have a number.
How much are you finding that the groups have increased their fees?
There's, so, from what I understand with working with Randy. It's not just the band fees, though we do pay, the community band extra for their second show, and then a few of the other bands, so there's like, but there's usually, it's budgeted for one or two bands that bring in a lot of people, and they tend to request more. So for example, I know the goal is to try and convince Gonzalo to play one more lakefront show, and their fee to play is $1,000.
Yeah,
So
that changed, didn't it, Deb, at some point, because the community band actually had its own line, so it wasn't impacting that. They must have gotten combined, did they? You remember that?
No, because figures.
And then one of the reasons why we spent extra money is for signage. Which the banner, which was the most expensive, is reusable, and I'm assuming that the yard signs are also reusable, though we might want to budget a little bit extra in just in case some of those were damaged, because they're not, they're cardboard or. But yeah, so I have been asked to ask for $4,995 as the limit. So
Yep, so it's just only 195 more.
Yeah.
4,995. So up 195. Okay.
Cindy has a request for historian. And the village historian would like a subscription to Ancestry for all the genealogy requests he deals with in off hours.
The only thing we've ever paid the historian was $30 a year.
I'm just telling you, he's requesting.
Yeah, it's since, what was his name?
I'm sorry.
The historian that passed away there. The last couple of- Yeah, we haven't kind of.
Historically, what the village pays for is that fee for the New York State municipal historian
Okay.
organization.
doesn't the library have access to Ancestry and a few other genealogical websites?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that they do. They have access to that through the library. It's just, it was only available on personal computers during COVID. And so now it's back, but you have to use the library's computer for it, but it is free with the library member.
Yeah, he's saying in off hours.
Yeah, okay.
And she said $264.
Yeah. Again, I think it's the municipal historian fee that we're willing to pay. That's historically what it was.
$30, that's all.
Yeah, what is it, New York State?
Just for the sake of discussion, though, this is a new sort of resource that will enhance our history.
It's service. I can tell you, because my parents were historians for about a decade or so, you get a ton of genealogical requests, and they aren't coming necessarily from
Here.
village residents. They're coming from people who say, my great grandfather lived there, can you research this? And they did, because they enjoyed that. But they would use the resources at the Fenimore, etc. It's not a service to residents per se.
So there's nothing, I just want to say, there's nothing in that line, we're not even paying the $30 this year.
Yeah, it's, I'm not even seeing
Yeah,
the
the last couple of years.
It's 1819.
Can you please put that on there to look and see what, it's like the New York State municipal historians, or look up, it was historically, it might even be more than 35, we can budget more than 35 then.
So for the moment, leave it at 0 until we find out information.
Yeah, we'll be adding a figure, I've circled it there, that we will be adding a figure there.
And there's nothing for the second line under historian that we want to consider.
I can't remember that we've ever sort of put that there. The last time I almost remember it being used was for, you know, a decade or more ago when the village celebrated its incorporation bicentennial. And then that was part of that then, but I don't know of any other. Offhand. Any other questions on 15? 16? Do we have a lot of planting in mind for our under shade trees planting?
That's about what it costs for 10 trees.
Right, so we're gonna be doing that this year. We're still gonna plant maybe about 9.
That's what I've been trying to do every year, it's like 10 trees. And like with everything, the price of trees are going up.
I'm just struck by up above street cleaning materials and supplies, spend $4,000 on garbage bags,
Yep,
which all go into landfills and plastic.
They're compostable garbage bags, aren't they?
no,
Oh,
But that's pretty much just for our trash bins on the main street and all our bins.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had actuals, with the actuals there. It's a lot of trash bins. Anything else?
This page.
Historically, we're gonna be stopping in 5 minutes anyway. We don't fuss too much about water and sewer because they are separate lines. The only thing I was wondering, they wouldn't have known to add like interest, you know, how if we use 9 class?
No, we haven't added anything to them
Yeah,
at all yet.
or sewer.
No.
where are we, 17?
Yes,
Yeah. So we can discuss that, but it seems like we should think about it. No. So I will put that on the list that we, for maybe next week, we'll think about it. Interest. I'm not sure if that would be again another line under 2148 or for water or use of money and 2401.
We'd have to set up another
Okay.
code.
And the one thing I'll note is on page 17, we do have added 10,000, we're requesting 10 to building reserves and 120 to streets. We are, so the 120 we're building up, even though we've got a lot of state touring route money coming in.
yeah. That was the idea.
Yeah, because we know, so this is the other sheet that you got handed today. And I was noting that in the past couple of years, particularly, you know, pandemic years, we did not move a lot to our reserves because we were really on a bit of a shoestring there. But historically, we have put money aside for the village equipment reserve. Obviously, this year we're appropriating the 40, and that's for that truck, right, the Ford truck,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. And then, village equipment reserve for all the equipment. And there is a village fire equipment reserve. Remember, I referenced that previously. We're getting that updated, because we didn't contribute to that previously. That's the one, though, that does not include any contribution for an aerial ladder, since it was never purchased by the village. But Mitch is having the fire department update that one, and we're updating our village equipment. And even though it looks like we might have come out a little, I don't know how we came out, because I didn't finish all the appropriations. I know what it was for, we increased the revenue by 111,000. But we obviously added and took off very little on our appropriations. We're gonna have figures in there, and I'd like to see them get in. So that is going to impact here. It's going to impact on page 17, and it's going to impact that over the long run. So the next one might be a little harder. It's not like we have a clear path. We'll get a little more information on those areas we were missing, and try and refine this a bit more. Thank you all. That was great.